Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group A, and we would like to elaborate the paradigm and characteristics of quantitative research and its difference to the qualitative research. The members of this group are me, Ahmad Setiadi, Nova Kartikasari, Beauty Sholeha Raufi, Yudha Christianto, and Faiz Muhtadi Billah. We are going to start with the definition of the qualitative research. Next. So what is quantitative research? Quantitative research is a theory consisting of variables which are measured with numbers and analyzed with statistics in order to determine if the theory explains or predicts phenomena of interest. The second definition is that the research or quantitative research is the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. And the last definition is that quantitative research is based on positivism, which holds that there are facts with the objective reality that can be expressed numerically. To talk about the positivism, I am going to hand on to Pak Yudha. Pak Yudha, you can unmute the microphone.
Sorry. Thank you, Pak Ahmad, for the chance. And then the second slide is the paradigm of quantitative research. And then based on the book, there are 4 paradigms of quantitative research. The first is the prediction or positivism. That one is used to express the scientific approach to the world. And then there are 3 basic principles of positivism. The one is the first, the science is the only valid knowledge and only fact are counted as an object of the knowledge itself. And then second, the philosophy and science possess the same method. The third, philosophy, a task was to find the general principle that are common to all the sciences. And then the last is the characteristic of positivism is the elimination of metaphysics from philosophy itself. And number 2 is about understanding interpretive approach. That one is the naturalistic approach of data collections, such as interviews and observation to interpret elements of the study. And then number 3 is emancipatory, or we can say it in the other words is a critical theoretical approaches. The definition is the research perspective of producing knowledge that can be benefit to disadvantaged people. And then the last is deconstruction or post-structuralist, a term of philosophical and literary forms of theory what both build upon and reject ideas established by structuralism, the intellectual project that preceded. For the next slide.
All right, for the next slide is about the characteristic of quantitative research, and there are several characteristics of quantitative research. The first is using objective approach with an assumption that reality is single, and the second is emphasis the measurement and analysis of causal relationship between 2 or more variables, and the third is begin with hypotheses and theories. And the next is concerned with outcomes, generalizations, prediction, and cause-effect relationship through deductive reasoning. And the next is usually can be replicated or repeated given its high reliability. And then research questions in this quantitative research be usually defined to which objective answers are solved. And the next is data gathered using structured research instruments such as questionnaires and computer software. And the next is data presented in the form of numbers and statistics, and it is often arranged in tables, charts, figures, and or the other non-textual forms. And the last is researcher have the role as our detachment and impartiality, and in objective portrayal and ethic, or using the point of view of the outsider point of view. And for the next slide will be explained by Kanova.
Okay, so I would like to explain about the differences between qualitative and quantitative research. For the qualitative, the characteristics are first, focus on smaller number of samples. However, the data can be detailed. And then it uses words to express and understands concepts, thoughts, or experience. Next, it can be used to gain comprehensive insight into subjects that are not widely understood. And the last, open-ended interview questions, written descriptions of observation, and literature studies that examine concepts and theories are all examples of qualitative approaches. Meanwhile, for the quantitative, the focus of quantitative research are statistics and numbers. And then graphs and numbers are used to represent the research. It is used to validate or put the test theories and pre-assumptions. And then next, it is measured by variables and test hypothesis. And then the last, experiments, observation that are quantified, and surveys with close-ended questions are examples of quantitative approaches. Next, after these, the types of quantitative research will be explained by Faiz. Okay, Faiz, can you explain about the types of quantitative research? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Novita. Miss Nova. Okay, hello. So the next slide is going to be the types of quantitative research. Um, so there are actually plenty of types of research, but most common use is these four main types of quantitative design that people often use in their studies. First one is descriptive research. This every types is like self-explanatory based on the names. Firstly, the descriptive research. Descriptive research seeks to describe the current status of identified variable. These types of research projects are designed to provide systematic information about phenomenon. It usually does not begin with a hypothesis. Rather, the hypothesis emerge after the data is being analyzed or described. One of the example of an descriptive method is a description of how second grade students spend their time during summer vacation. It describes the student situation during that time, and there's no hypothesis before observing the data. Second type of research, quantitative research, is the correlational research. So the correlational is to determine the relationship between two or more variables using statistic data. The data variable are studied only. Variables are not manipulated, as it is not still raw from the data, so there's no changes made. The example of correlational research, it is the relationship between intelligence and self-esteem. And the third one is causal comparative research design. it mainly attempts to establish cause-effect relationships among the variables. These types of design are very similar to true experiment with some key differences. Independent variable is identified but not manipulated by the experimenter, and effects on the independent variable on the dependent variable are measures. Example is the effect of gender on algebra achievement. And the last most used effect, and the last most used the research design is experimental. Experimental research, often called true experimentation, uses scientific method to establish the cause and effect relationships among a group of variables that makes the study. Um, but it is not always the case. To identify and impose control all of the variable except one. Experimental research design uses an independent variable and is manipulated compared to the other three design research. Example of experimental design is the effect of positive reinforcements on attitude towards school. Those four are the most used types of research design for quantitative types. Okay, so this is the last paragraph. Sorry, this is the last slide, right?
Right.
Okay. So for the closure, I think that it's all for Group A member. This is a submission video for the task on Saturday. Um, sorry, as a representative for the whole group, I say thank you, and that is all from us.